Hello, my name is Francis Fox. Um, who am I? I am a person that's totally aligned with my mission, and I strongly suggest that you make sure that you're aligned with yours. I believe that yesterday they released Assange. Um, Now we need for them not to murder him. This would be a nice thing if they wouldn't do that. Um, but it made me think about mission. What does he do from here forward? I'm sure he had to agree not to be releasing anything type of thing that got him into trouble, or maybe not. But the point is that it started me thinking in terms of myself. I have been a victim. The victimization has been endless. I'll tell you in a few minutes about what happened last night. And I was thinking about the fact that the one mantra that I have that is the most helpful to everyone, the one where you can feel the quickest relief, is the one having to do with aligning with your prosperous mission. That's pretty important because it's validating what many people have said in the studies and people that observe human behavior. It validates the fact that people never feel better than when they're helping other people. They're never happier. And we are in the age of Aquarius, community, brotherhood. Yes, I know. It doesn't look like that. But the energies are there. If we can get a lot of stuff out of the way, and we're not fully into it. We still are trying to drag ourselves out of the other age, the age of Pisces, which is turn the other cheek. Slap you on one cheek, you put the other one there. It's basically authorizing and supporting and glamorizing victimization, which is fine. That was then. We're getting out of that now, and now we're going into the age of Aquarius community. But even in the age of Pisces, people felt the best when they were doing something for their fellow man. And maybe that's one of the places where we got off track here in the United States, where companies, corporations did not live up to that. They offered products and things that were not really good for people. And then they added stuff that was even worse for people. And the people that worked inside the companies knew this. Maybe they didn't all know it. Maybe they didn't know how bad it was, but they knew this. How could they feel good about what they do for a living? About what they put in the product, what transfers from them to the product? Maybe that's why we can't do what we used to do before, which is work 40 years for a company, be proud of our work, and then have a retirement dinner and they give you a watch if you're a man. Um, and you felt good about yourself. But maybe that was okay because you felt good about yourself because of what you were producing or how you produced it. You felt proud of yourself. You were consistent. You showed up for work. You backed up your companions in the work group or the company. People don't feel that about their jobs. But when it is more important than ever, people are having to support companies and products in situations that go against the human need to help others. The heart feels happy. Your problems become less. This whole separation in terms of income creates a lot more issues. It's totally the extreme of hierarchy, which again, that's what we're leaving from. We're going into community. Hierarchy is power based on a triangle. Big guy at the top, a little bit little guy at the underneath, and then it keeps going down until at the base you have all the working people. That's collapsed in the sense that there's no support in the other dimensions. Now we're into circular, but we're in the in between. It's very, very complicated. But today I'm going to get into something a little bit more personal. I am going to put on my little video. I'm going to put on my video about mission. And here's the trick with that little video. That video talks about the part of my mission that has to do with cannabis. And I am part of a movement which I started called the Mantrista movement. And a lot of my followers are women, not teenage women. And the number one concern for all of us always was our families and our children, and then our countries, etc. And many of them drank the Kool-Aid, having to do with what was done to a sacred herb, cannabis. So this particular video, even though so many people have told me that their lives changed when they saw the video, I don't put it out that much because I know it makes too many of my own followers suspicious. They can't quite get over the disinformation. And we have to ask ourselves, why was so much effort put into taking down the reputation of that herb and turning it into something illegal, turning it into something ugly? Why was so much effort put into that? I think I'm going to go into that now, and then I'm going to go show you the video, and then we're going to do the mission mantra. And I think I told you that I would show you the map of the United States that I sketched yesterday. And this is what the United States looks like. Not good, other than South Florida, which is where I'm at, where it says, looks great. Texas has black magic along the border. Not the border where the illegals are coming in, along the border with the Gulf of Mexico. Who does not want what's going on there? Somebody needs to ask that question. Maine, it says landing for ETs. I have to sketch and give you what I get. If I start to manipulate the information, first place, I can't do it. My training's too tough, and I know that even if I don't understand it today and you don't, when we look back, we're going to understand it. I need to be proud of my work, even if I don't understand it. So this says landing for ETs, and I've sketched this part of the United States being very sketchy a couple of times. And then we have this wave of the fire element, much more on the West Coast. I don't know what that's going to translate into, but this is almost like the center of the United States, and the center of our bodies and our energy system is the solar plexus chakra, which is the energy center that channels personal power. So if I have to give an opinion as to what this means, it means that our personal power in the United States is very iffy. I think we would all agree with that. It also means an excess of the fire element. And fire is the element of the solar plexus. But there's too much of it. It's like a wave, and it's not supposed to look like that. This is almost a liquid. So very quickly, I'm going to go into what happens when you get sick. This particular wave, astral particles of emotions are particles. They flit around. They don't flit around. They just kind of float. When you start to get sick, those particles start to clump together. First, they get kind of like a liquid, preamble to getting sick. Then they clump together and they look like a loose jello, and then they get really like a firm jello. Firm jello, you are sick. The first time I saw this was many, many years ago. It's maybe not an appropriate story, but when I had separated from my husband, I was single and I was looking to date. And I remember looking at a couple of men, and I wasn't trying to look at them astrally, but I could see that their second chakra, which is 2 inches below the belly button, which has to do with sexuality, had like this jello. And it turned out they both had prostate issues. But to have the prostate issues, you have to have that jello consistency to your particles of emotions. So this is an indication that the United States, and what does it mean that it's like a wave? I don't know. Does that mean that these states are a little bit less susceptible to that? Does this mean it's already moving into Texas? I don't know. But this is not good. And yet, in a sense, it's not as bad as other ones that I have sketched. So I would say that we're getting better, but that our emotions, which we have had too many of, are going to end up making us sick and are making us sick as a country. So let's get into the whole cannabis, which is not what I intended on talking about, but in that way, then I can introduce my video and you can understand why sometimes I'm a bit hesitant to show it because of my own followers, too many of them. I have a group of followers that's like a little gang that cut off from us, which is fine. We're a movement. We're not an organization. There's no dues. We don't take names. It's if you do mantras and you're into healing and you want to help your family and your country, etc., and you really want to get together to also help other people, then you can call yourself a mantrista if you do mantras. And everybody that follows me does mantras. But they have their own issues, which is fine. But they have a huge issue, apparently, many of them or some of them, with the fact that I do smoke pot. And I take cannabis. I have a license. I have a prescription. Oh my God. I have a prescription for a sacred herb that's been used in Ayurveda for 5,000 years and in Chinese medicine for 2,000 years. In Chinese medicine, they recommend it daily for couples. Now, why would they do that? Because cannabis reduces fire and fire is the gasoline for fighting and arguments and not getting along. It would be great for couples. They recommend it daily for couples. So anyway, so I'll tell you the story of the whole, how this whole started, because I'm 75. Actually, I'm going to be 76 in a couple of days. And I also had bought the storyline that cannabis, marijuana, is from the devil. But I had somebody who's very evolved, doesn't do a lot of talking, and said to me one day, you know what? You should actually try it. And because I respect the person, I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead. And I laughed myself silly because I smoked it. Because at that point, I'm not sure, that was several years ago. So I would have been in my 60s, late 60s, I think. And I laughed myself silly because I smoked, I couldn't feel anything. And I went ahead and got my car and I went to the food store. And I remember walking across the parking lot and I was like, I looked down, I could see my astral legs were not aligned with my physical legs. My astral legs were moving like this and my physical legs were moving like this, which would explain a lot about the way I walk. And I laughed and I went, oh my God, this is what marijuana does. What does it do? It opens you up to the other dimensions. It shows you what's already going on. That was not new. I wasn't walking like that because I had smoked pot. I was walking like that because that's the way I was walking, because I apparently always walk like that. But I could see it because I smoke pot. I don't like actually to use the word smoke pot because it sounds really trashy. Okay. So anyway, what I found when I smoke pot is that it is an incredible assist for doing a mantra. When you do a mantra, you want to either set something in place and creating reality, or you want to deprogram something that's already been created and you don't like it. I found was an incredible assist because a lot of times when there's things that are bad that are happening in your life, it has to do with some kind of a congestion of negative emotions and trauma that you went through and that you're now repeating again. So that if I did a mantra on, let's say, being prosperous, I would find myself able to find the root cause, which would be deep within my tissues and deep within other dimensions, like this, compared to if I didn't, and then it would be like the slow boat to China. Well, I don't like the slow boat to China. The fact that my legs were moving like this is proof I don't want to get on the slow boat to China. So I continue to use it and I continue today. If I am having a big problem and I haven't managed to resolve it. And I've done a lot of mantras, and I will go ahead and schedule myself for a session, and I will smoke a lot of pot in that particular space of time in order to get down deeper into the dimensions in which I can very easily find what was it that happened decades ago that I'm having this problem today. Like if you're sick, if you have a disease, a condition, something happened before. Even with cancer, that it takes from 24 to 27 months after an injury, an emotional injury in the other dimensions, to have your doctor say you have cancer, the actual original injury is usually when you were a child. And then it's a re-injury, and 24 to 27 months afterwards, you get cancer. So let's say I was going after that, which I don't have cancer. I've never had cancer. I'm not gonna, that would take me to whatever trauma it was that created a congestion and a tear, like a scar on my mind, strings, with the emotions of rage and the feeling of impotence in that congestion, which is called a vasana. If you find that congestion and you do the deprogramming with the mantra, it releases. Then you can no longer have that particular disease because the generator is gone. So anyway, that is how I use marijuana, pot, cannabis. I don't use it socially, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't. But the truth of the matter is, I have a lot of trust issues, a lot of paranoia. I'm not going to cut loose with other people. I'm not sure. So I don't. I use it for that. And that is going to be a protocol that I'm going to set up as soon as everybody can get over their paranoia. So let's go into paranoia and smoking pot. The only side effect from what I have seen, and I did a lot of reading around on the topic, the only side effect is paranoia when you smoke pot. Okay. No, it's not okay. That is a mistake. When you smoke pot and you see a monster, which you call paranoia, no, it's revelations. You're seeing something that was always there or has just come in. It's there, but it's in other dimensions. You didn't know it because you weren't conscious in the other dimensions. So it's good to smoke if you would like to gain more control about you in the other dimensions. And being it that reality is created in the other dimensions, and your diseases and conditions and all the stuff that's wrong with you is deeply ingrained in the other dimensions, what you part of you, then I think it would be really good that be revealed to you. If you see a ton of spirits, that means you're surrounded by a ton of spirits. And the smoking pot did not put those monsters in your mind. Cancel mind, because nobody that's professional understands mind, and they will tell you that. You are seeing something that's there. It's giving you information, and information is power. So the people that have a weak mind, which it's not a weak mind, the people that are invaded have a lot of spirits, have a lot of stuff influencing them, bothering them in other dimensions, could say the smoking pot gives them paranoia. Totally wrong. And they shouldn't be smoking pot, but that is information, and they need to use that information to go, what is the matter with what's around me that all these beings are there? Maybe it'd be a good idea that the people that go and do the negotiating with the ETs smoke pot, because they'll be able to see more other dimensions that the ETs are so totally familiar with. That's a joke. It's not a joke. What about the difference between marijuana, smoking pot, and ayahuasca? I've never tried ayahuasca, but the government tried LSD on me and all sorts of other things. Maybe they tried ayahuasca. I don't actually know or remember. What about the difference? What is the difference? Ayahuasca takes you to other dimensions and it slams you into them and puts your face in the mud and makes it, it's a violent entry into parts of your mind that have stuff in there that when you see it, it's horrifying, but it's part of your history. It's there. And then there's apparently a lot of vomiting, which purging, which means detox, which means releasing. And then the person is different from there on because they took care of something that was weighing very heavily on them. I don't recommend ayahuasca. Why would you go into a detox that's so heavy and makes you feel so ill? And you have to have a specialist standing with you, and you'll never forget that again because it was so violent. When you can do it much more gently with something like cannabis. Why? And maybe the why is because the results are so incredible. But you can get those same results much more gracefully. And I'm not saying choose cannabis over ayahuasca. I think it's something that a lot of people are trying. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't tell people not to take it. I just said, it's a rough trip. I guess maybe I don't want it to be a trip, that when you're onto something because you don't feel good, life is not working, and something is stuck in you, maybe not make a trip. Maybe you need to just kind of gently open up the other dimensions, which the cannabis can do. And the ayahuasca apparently is not a very graceful herb, sacred herb. But that's my own, those are my own opinions. I'm not against it. If everybody wants to try it, fine. I do understand that they're now giving it in micro doses, which should be great. Somebody offered it to me and I went, Miss Oppositional Disorder, went, no, I'm fine. No, I'm sorry, I said. No, I'm fine. I don't need it. I would like to try that. The microdoses maybe will keep stuff open more gently and allow you to access stuff that you need to let go of more gracefully. So that's the difference between the two. In terms of, and wasn't supposed to be a chat about what we're talking about these herbs that actually are very healing to the mind strings, which is the tool that you have for creating. There's something else that I could recommend that I'm going to recommend. I never thought of putting it in the same category, but there is a product called Gero Vital. I'm going to write it here. I don't know. Is the medical mafia going to come after me? I have no idea. I don't think so. This is supposed to be the #1 anti-aging product in the world. And you can get it in pills and injections, but what they really recommend is injections. And they have some spectacular studies from, the doctor's name is from Romania, is Dr. Anna. They have these spectacular studies that she did initially, somebody with not a single hair on their head, and they went from that to a full head of hair after treatments. It's vitamin B6 and a product that is what they used to inject us with when we went to the dentist. And I don't remember what the name is, but you can look it up. That's the name of it. It's the #1 anti-aging product in the world. And it's a program you for 4 weeks, 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you inject yourself. You get somebody to inject you, and you do it for 4 weeks straight. You wait for a month and you do it again. It is incredible. If you are exhausted, if you are totally depleted, if you can't even think clearly and your body feels like it's breaking down, if it was legal where you are, I would highly recommend it. So what is Gero Vital? It's a relaxant. And what does it relax that it is so phenomenal? Let me show you. Gero Vital relaxes the mind strings. Whoa, the mind strings, the gold funnel in the middle is your causal body where cause resides. It's actually the Holy Grail, literally. And then you have 72,000 mind streams, that extend from it. Gero Vital relaxes the mind streams, but it's the clutching of the mind streams that makes you sick. When you have a problem with a thyroid, you have thousands of the mind streams from here clutching your thyroid. When your neck hurts, you have thousands of mind streams grabbing onto there. When you have a stomach ache, you have thousands of mind streams grabbing your solar plexus. When you have cancer, you have who knows how many thousands of mind streams grabbing and and ending up encapsulating a congestion of rage, impotence, the images of the memory that caused you sounds, everything that has to do with the trauma that you reacted to in rage and impotence, that 24 to 27 months later ends up being diagnosed as cancer. It relaxes those strings. It relaxes the strings of the mind, which are in the original Lord's Prayer. In the original Lord's Prayer, they talk about these energy bodies that are in this assemblage of bodies. Other than the last body that's triangular, the Merkaba, the Lord's Prayer refers to these bodies. And they talk about the mind streams. And they say you need to let go of those strings, those knots. You need to let go of those strings holding on to guilt. It's incredible. And the Pope that we have today, he has a favorite prayer that's to a virgin called the Virgin, that undoer of knots. And those are the knots in the mind strings, and the mind strings are what create reality. So Gero Vital relaxes them. So if you're on Gero Vital on a regular basis and you have a trauma, it's not going to tighten up as much because your mind streams are going to be systematically being relaxed by being systematically nurtured by the Gero Vital. I'm not recommending it. I'm giving you information as to why it works. And again, if you're exhausted, you might want to try a month of it. You stop for a month and you go back for another month. I think they recommend the pills in the month in which you're not getting injected, which I generally have not done. I have seen people to where their gray hairs have turned much darker. And I think that everybody who has an issue with hair loss should try it. And I think it should be injected into the head, which a lot of people do. Oh my God, and what does the American Medical Association say about that? I don't really care. Because if they had taken care of the issue, we wouldn't have had to bounce around trying to find our own solutions. You can't go ahead and have a problem and tell people that they can't solve it with something that doesn't do them any damage because you didn't find the remedy to it and you haven't had the time to investigate that yet, or it's too cheap because Gero Vital is very cheap. It's not expensive. I think it's like $50 for a 2-week supply. For what it does for you, it's really inexpensive. So LSD, you already know my opinion on LSD. I don't recommend it. It was used on me when I was a child. It opens you up to the other dimensions. You're not the same after a round of LSD. Is it a round, a session, a one? I have no idea. You're not the same, and you all know the story. Several times over several years, I would be at a party, I'd be in an event, it would be something social, relaxed, a glass of wine, everybody relaxed, and I would meet somebody. And then when there weren't 1,000 people around listening, I'd say, did you ever try LSD? And they would say, no. I would go, oh, okay. And then a few minutes later, they would say, why did you ask me that? And I would say, well, your mind is so expanded. It looks kind of like you had tried LSD. They never continued contending they didn't take it. They always said, I did take it. I just don't talk about it. Expanded mind. Am I recommending you take LSD? No. Should you tell your children this? No. because I don't know what kind of supervision there should be had, but we're getting thrown into the other dimensions. What is this thing with not letting people do their own traveling into the other dimensions gracefully in the privacy of what's the issue? Somebody doesn't want us to know what's in the other dimensions, do they? So I am not suggesting any of this for you. I'm giving you information actually as a preamble to showing you my video on my mission. Because when I see it, I remember the fact that too many people, my own followers, too many of them, oh my God, my son smokes pot. He's a drug addict. And I go, marijuana is not a drug. Oh yeah, and then they self-correct because they know they're talking to me. It's not a drug. I said, by the way, if they're smoking pot, it's because they're that much pot. They're very uncomfortable and they need to relax. And I would prefer that I would prefer that they do that than that they run around with that level of anxiety and rage, because cannabis is a female herb that reduces fire. So when the Iraq war was going to start, I said, and I put it up as a post, we need to airdrop marijuana into Iraq. Because, of course, the Iraqis were the ones that were out of control. Now it turns out that we were out of control, but we don't need to go into that. I said, let's airdrop marijuana. It'll relax them. Do we need to airdrop marijuana to these areas? Probably. We're not going to do it. Oh, my God. Come on. Interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and put up the video, and then we're going to go ahead and we are going to do the mantra, and you will feel much better. And what you can do for your country, if you are an American or you live here or you think that this country is important, which it is to the whole planet, then you can visualize not airdropping marijuana. You can visualize ice down this entire area. Okay? And do it several times a day. It doesn't take long. You just breathe. That's, by the way, how reality is created. It starts with an image and an intention, a breath. Anyway, so let's go ahead and let's put on the little video. And now you won't be shocked about how I ended up with my mission. By the way, I don't sell the product now. I sold it several years ago. And then the market for cannabis, I guess you could say, bottomed out. And so it got really confusing with the company I was working with. It was supposedly a very honorable company. But I think when somebody pulls the rug out from under people, they sometimes don't behave the way they would. And I was not, they suggested that I change the expiration date on this product that they were selling me because I hadn't been able to sell it. I said, I'm not going to do that. And they said, all the studies say that it lasts like 5 years. It's only been 2.5. You have another 2.5 years. Just change the date. So I dropped them. But I am going to go back to that, except I am going to go back and find cannabis that is grown in a sacred area in Central Florida, which has a perfect balance of male-female energy and should be great for sex, which means second chakra, which is the chakra of sex, creativity, manifestation, where Kundalini is. It's important. So let's go ahead and put the video up. Okay? But yes, I will be selling cannabis. But that is not the reason why I'm saying this, because thank God, cannabis has been very nicely priced now. So you don't have to be well-to-do to be able to afford it. Give me a second. And no, it's an upload, not a recording. Okay. That's sweet. The girl who did the video was really, really, really good. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's do the mantra, and then that will be how we finish our time together. You know what I realized? A lot of the issues with Elon Musk and the incredible stuff that he is giving us, the problem is, and that was a statistic that I found, I didn't make that up. If it actually has taken until recently 50 years to get people used to something new, and Elon Musk is introducing new stuff every 10 days, it's no wonder there's so much pushback. They haven't had the time. The truth of the matter is, we don't have the time for the 50 years. And we don't have the time for the cannabis. I have a friend of mine who's a shaman from the mountains in Colombia. He's an Arhuaco, and he's very tall, and he has a hat that's this tall, white. And I remember that I was having a difficult time, and I said to God, listen, I'm not figuring this out. So you either get down here and get me to understand it, or you send someone. Okay, so that's the way I talk to my people. And so one day somebody said, hey, we have a shaman in town. I think you might enjoy, meeting him and maybe, introducing him to people. Whatever. So I said, fine, great. When he walked in the door, I said, that's either God or who God sent, because he looked like it. The matter was, with the whole thing with the marijuana, which he disapproved of, he chews coca leaves, basically cocaine. But he looked down on his nose at cannabis. Not good. What? So I asked the dolphins. I was going to say I did a study. Shortcut. Dolphins, talk to me about cannabis, please. And what they said was that cannabis is a female herb that reduces fire. When you have people that are really angry and upset, like this country, they need it to cool down. That's why it's so important today. Global warming, everything's too hot, everybody's too angry. But it is not a good herb for somebody that's got to travel and walk up a mountain. They don't need to be cooled down. They need to be revved up. And the cocaine does that. Cocaine is a male herb plant. And I went, oh, that makes total sense. I would have never come up with that on my own, obviously, but it makes total sense. So the shaman next to God, he looked down on the cannabis, but he didn't need it. He needed something completely different. So not everybody is going to benefit from cannabis the same way. Obviously, not everybody benefits from cocaine. And also the cocaine that people take today, from what I understand, is lab made. I have no idea. And that one I don't want to get anywhere near, because I've never actually heard anything good about that other than the natives in Peru and in Colombia that chew the leaves. So they're taking the natural product. Anyway, so let's go ahead and let's do the mantra. And I think check yourself now from 1 to 10. How do you feel? And let's go ahead and let's look at the white dress that we have not done for a bit. Okay. It doesn't look really shiny, but I'm having a bit of a time with my enemy, Rene Villegas, here in Coral Gables, Cuban Mafia, psychotronic weapons, mind control, black magic of the highest order. And he feels like I belong to him, because I actually did for a long time. Not good. Was he my handler? He wasn't my controller, I can tell you that. But was he my handler? Yeah. And man, is he mad. So let me use, let's do this mantra. So you checked yourself from 1 to 10. Where are you at? You saw the dress. Now we're going to do this for 7 minutes. And we're going to come back and you're going to rate yourself again from 1 to 10 and see how much you improved. Okay. I'm not sure about the video. I'm gonna do the trilling. Maybe I chose the wrong one. Okay, listen, we have a tremendous storm that started up. The subtitle of this chat is I Can Smell Freedom. And I did